Coming up next on Backchecking the Bolts. What goaltender in the East do you think could steal a series?
Well, I might be a little biased here because I've watched his entire season, and I was one of the few people who was actually like, this is a great pickup by the Flyers in the offseason, but I do think Dan Vladar is someone who could potentially do that.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. I'm your host, Jason Linkus. As always, I am joined by the managing editor of Raw Charge. He is Justin Godfrey. You can read him each and every day at www.rawcharge.com. Today's a great episode. First of all, we're going to recap the Lightning, let's just say, wasn't the most meaningful game against the New York Rangers. No one really had anything to play for. We're going to recap that one. We also have Jackie Spiegel, beat writer for the Philadelphia Flyers. She works for the Philadelphia Inquirer. You can read her at theinquirer.com. She's going to break down the Philadelphia Flyers resurgence into the playoffs and also take a look at some of the playoff series. And we're going to end this episode with Justin and I. We're going to give you our playoff picks. All that and more, it's coming up next. So, Justin, I'm going to bring you in. Let's talk about that 4-2 loss to the Rangers. Is there any way to sugarcoat this and just say it was just a meaningless game?
We did go out of our way in the recap to not call it meaningless and to point out the fact that, for a lot of players, there was a little bit of meaning in that game. Corey Perry scored, nice little backhand spinorama kind of goal. We don't know what Corey Perry's going to do. That could be his last regular season goal in the NHL. So there's a little meaning there. Brandon Halvorsen got the start against the team that drafted him. The Rangers drafted him way back when. For individual players, yes, there was some meaning. Did it have any importance whatsoever for either team in regards to their standings? Probably not. Oddly enough, the Rangers probably could have benefited from a loss as opposed to winning the game, just as they kind of, worked their way into their draft lottery odds. But it's a game that had to be played. You have to play all 82. The Lightning weren't super focused on winning the game, I don't think. They just wanted to get through it unscathed, didn't want any more injuries to upset their playoff roster. So they got through it. They lost. I think a lot of people had fun. It was fan appreciation. So I think that's all we really need to say about that game. Good job. And another thing, actually, one more point,
I wanted to talk about the return of Max Crozier.
So, okay, 2 more points then. Because I think another thing you got out of is Oliver Bjorkstrand scored in the game. It's been a tough season for the guy. He ends, if he hadn't scored, I think it would have been 19 games without a goal or something for him. Now he gets to go into the playoffs with a 1-game goal scoring streak. So you never know when these little things help mentally for a player. So for him to get a goal, I do think there's a little bit of importance to that. And then you mentioned the return of Max Crozier. So the Lightning get another younger defenseman back. Steve Santini played in the game, but I think he was also put on waivers for the purpose of reassigning him to Syracuse, where he is the captain. So he'll probably help them out for their playoff run. You get Crozier back, helps with that defensive depth where, there's still some question marks. So, he played, I think, about 16 minutes or so, nothing too strenuous. So having him back on that right side is going to be, a nice help for the Lightning. He did start the season on the roster. He was their opening night starter on the right side. So you get him back after 20-some games of missing action, and could only be good things for the Lightning defense.
Justin, because he's been out so long, I know it's good to get a game underneath his belt. Do you think he goes right into the top 6 pairings come playoff time?
I don't think so. As long as everybody's healthy, I think you're going to see the Radish-Mosier pairing as your top pairing. You're going to have McDonough, Chernak as your second pairing. And I think they're going to keep that Destu Lilleberg third pairing combination together. Again, a lot of this, the Victor Hedman status is a big thing, if he's going to play or not, which we don't have any information on. Nobody does. I think Victor Hedman is still the only person who knows if he's going to play. But you still have Crozier now as a depth option. If Cooper wants to go 11-7, which he likes to do on the road in the playoffs, you have a little bit stronger depth there.
The other thing is, when it comes playoff time, if you are going to make a long run in the playoffs, you're going to need 7, 8, 9 defensemen. It's important to get him back. It's important to get a game under his belt. Final question, Justin. Halverson got to start net. Is Johansson going to be the backup going into the playoffs?
Looks like it. Halverson was reassigned to Syracuse on Thursday. All intents and purposes, it looks like Johansson is good to go. I mean, honestly, if either one of them is getting playing time in the playoffs, might as well make plans for, playing golf because the Lightning aren't winning. If Vasilevsky's not in that, I think we all know that. So I don't think it really matters who the Lightning backup is. I think you or I could be their backup, and wouldn't change the outlook of the tournament. So
50 years old, I have a bad back and bad knees. Hey, throw me in there.
Exactly. You're good to go, man. Just stop 5 shots, you're good to go. So just get in the way.
So coming up, we are going to join our interview with Jackie Spiegel. Jackie is the beat writer. She works in the Philadelphia Inquirer. She covers the Philadelphia Flyers. She's going to talk about the Flyers' resurgence here in March. The Flyers have been on fire. They were 9 points out of a playoff spot in early March, and they're now going to be facing the Pittsburgh Penguins as the 3 seed coming out of the Metropolitan Division. Here's that interview with Jackie right now. We are excited to bring in our special guest. It's an old friend of mine. She is Jackie Spiegel from the Philadelphia Inquirer. She is the beat writer for the Flyers. She's also a 4-time Emmy Award winner. Jackie, thanks for joining us today. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, we won't talk about how many years it's been since we worked together.
It's been decades.
Redacted amount.
Jackie, the Flyers who you cover have been a great story over the past month. They've caught fire on March 10th. They were 9 points out of a playoff spot. They vaulted all the way to 3rd in the Metropolitan Division. Were you expecting this?
It's funny. I actually had a conversation with Sean Couturier right before the season restarted in late February, and I even said to him, hey, the St. Louis Blues were in last place, the year they won the cup on January 1st. I mean, anything's possible. And he was like, yeah, we just got to get on a run. That's what has to happen. We just need to get on a little bit of a run, and who knows what can happen. And I didn't even know that stat until the other night about the March 10th or March 9th or whatever it was thing. I think it was March 10th. Yeah, when they lose that first game out of the break to Washington, you're kind of like, oh, here we go again. They had a very bad January. I think it was a 3.75 winning percentage, which is as close to 0. I think you could probably NHL. But since then they've been 700, more than 700, in a month. It's kind of crazy, the turnaround. I do think a lot of credit needs to go to Rick Tocchet because they tweaked their systems during the Olympic break. He was in Milan with Canada, but they tweaked the systems, and it's helped it immensely. He mentioned it was Pete DeBoer who helped him with that, and he would sit around and talk hockey with John Cooper and Bruce Cassidy, who was also on that staff. So, I think a lot of credit goes to someone like a Rick Tocchet who. Sometimes you have coaches who are like, no, my system's going to be fine. It's the players kind of thing. And I think he realized his system wasn't working for the team that that the Flyers have. I mean, this is one of the best rush teams couple of years ago, and they weren't doing that under his system. And now they are again. Did I think it would happen? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, it did have them kind of as a maybe for the playoff. It was hard. I was very at the beginning of the year, I was debating you never know because a first year coach can find
Are they going to have that fire underneath them?
Yeah, sometimes you have first year coaches. I think Peter Laviolette's notorious, right? For first year with a team, they go to the Stanley Cup final or something like that. Just you never know. So I was very on the fence. When the season started, I said maybe. That was my prediction, maybe playoffs. Did I think when they hit the Olympic break it would happen? No, I think I was definitely all right, this is another lost season. But man, they're 18-7-1 since the Olympic break, and it's staggering when you see that.
I want to talk about that Olympic break. After all these teams came back, you had some teams playing 17 games in 31 days. I saw some teams playing 5 games in 7. The Flyers are really young. That's the one thing they have is youth. Did they have a little bit of an advantage over some teams because of that youth?
I think it's a combination of youth, and I think it's a combination of they have 4 really good lines now. Like, the fourth line really struggled for most of the year, but now it's found a lot of consistency by adding Luke Glendening at the trade deadline. He was actually a waiver claim at the trade deadline. So
Yeah, that's right.
I think, like, he really solidified that fourth line, and he's a guy who can, he's a right shot center, which nobody else on the Flyers is. So I think that, and that was a question I had for
He
general
fit a
manager.
need.
Yeah, well, he did. He really did. I mean, Rodrigo Abels went down with an injury late January, which unfortunately kept him out of the Olympics for Latvia. Hasn't played again. And I don't know what his status is now that the season's been extended. But I do think, like, Luke Glendening helped solidify that fourth line. I think they have 4 lines that they can roll. And I think they've really solidified their defensive pairings with Jamie Drysdale, Cam Yorker combined now. They're friends off the ice, which I think really helps. You have Travis Sanheim and Ristolainen together, 2, big-bodied, but, a little different with their style of the game. And then you have, obviously, the third pairing, which kind of rotates a little bit. It's always Nick Seeler. Nick Seeler's always going to play. But then you have, Emil Andre, Noah Juleson. They kind of rotate. Emil's been a little bit more on the blue line now. So, yeah, though there is youth, I think Porter Martone's been a nice little shot in the arm.
I wanted to ask you about him. He looks a little bit when he has that net front presence like your coach, Rick Tocchet. He reminds me of Tocchet there, a big guy, 6'3". He's only played 10 games because he just came from Michigan State.
Yep.
How big of an addition has he been to the Flyers?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, this is a kid, I've said this to a few people. I met Porter Martone first at the Combine last year before he was even a Flyer. And what really struck me about him is that I was there a whole week, and every time I saw this kid, he was wearing a suit. And
Really?
I felt like he was just like professional, like this is his focus, like this is what he wants to be. And I thought it kind of really like took me a little by surprise that, because a lot of other kids would wear maybe like a polo and nice pants, he was in a suit every time I saw him. And I thought that said a lot about like, he was very like laser focused, like this is what I want to do. This is my dream. I'm not veering from this path kind of thing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with not wearing a suit either, but I'm just saying like it just, especially now with when he was doing it, there was a dress code, but now there isn't in the NHL.
It sets a tone.
It set a tone. I think it set a tone. And I've talked to him several times throughout the course of the year. Always laser focused. Even when I talked to him at the end of December when he was with Hockey Canada for preparing for World Juniors, he's like, yeah, I want to stay with Michigan for the season. We want to win a national championship, but basically saying beyond that, I don't know. Like paraphrasing, like
the NHL's coming close.
Yeah. He's always been this kid. Great family, great kid. Very polished when you talk to him. He's just been going to Michigan State was a huge advantage for him. They really prepared him. Adam Nightingale and his staff did a fantastic job preparing him for the rigors of the NHL. One of the stories I recently wrote was about why he chose Michigan State and how the consistency of the gym and strength training helped his game prepare for the rigors of the NHL. So I think, Porter Martone's just been, you have him, who's 19. You have Matvei Michkov, who's 21, who led the team in points. He finally eclipsed Noah Cates in the last game of the regular season with a 3-point game. But he led the team in points, after the Olympic break, where he used that time to also kind of get his body a little bit in better shape. You have your Tyson Forster just returned. I think he's like 22. Jamie Drysdale, I think he just turned 23 or 24. I can't remember. I know his birthday was recently. Alex Bump, who's 22, I don't know how Rick Tocchet keeps him out of the lineup. I know there's no place really for him at this moment with Denver Barkey being in, but his shot, I've always been, I was told last year before I went to the Frozen Four about how good Alex Bump is. And I was like, yeah, he's like a 5th round pick, no. And then I watched him at the Frozen Four because I was there covering the Frozen Four to literally speak to him the whole time. Kid's insane. People were coming up to me as the beat reporter for the Flyers and being like, oh, that kid's good.
Why do you think he slid to the 5th round?
He went to high school. He did the high school route in Minnesota. I think that was part of it. It's different for guys. Like now you have all these guys go to college even as like a 17, 18-year-old that are getting drafted, before their draft year. He didn't play juniors and like, he stayed high school route. He wanted to stay close to home kind of thing. And I think he just fell. I don't think people, he's tall, but he's very lanky. So maybe they didn't think whatever, but the kid has like an amazing shot. I don't know if you saw the goal he scored.
I did. It's a bomb.
Tuesday night? Like, I don't even know what day of the week we are. It's just all I know is it a practice day, a game day, or an off day? That's it.
Well,
I don't even.
You've had to wait for the NHL to release the schedule. You've been waiting all day for that.
And they haven't even done it. They've only released game one.
They've only given you one game.
But yeah, literally, I booked my flight like right after, and then, or I had heard from a source like that it was happening, so I booked my flight, and then literally like 4 hours later, I just checked in. So yeah, it's been a day. But yeah, no, Alex Bump is great. Denver Barkey, he's I think he's generously listed at 5'9" kind of thing. He's a young kid. He's only 20, 21. And then you have like Oliver Bonk, who just made his NHL debut in Game 82, and he's same age as Denver Bark, or he's 21, I think, and Denver Barkey's 20 still. Yeah, they got like a really good youth, and I think it just provides like there's an energy, like there's a vibe around the team that I think
it seems like the city has really grasped to this team, because when you see not just the reactions in the stands, that always happens, but just what I'm seeing on talk radio, what I'm seeing in other mediums, it seems like there's a big buzz around the Flyers right now.
You have the diehards that aren't going to leave the team, but maybe they weren't happy with how things were going. This was a team, you have to remember, that 2 years ago almost made the playoffs too. It came down to pretty much the last game of the season then also. I think just people like the team. Like they like the players. They like the excitement. I mean, Game 82 could have been like a crazy, nothing game, but then you have like two guys making their debuts. You have another guy making his Flyers debut. And I think if I remember correctly, because it was pretty much my story, was that they had 11 players, and that includes one goalie, so Kolosov. But they had 11 out of the 20 players that suited up for that game that were under 25 and under.
Wow.
And then
you never see that.
And then granted, they rested a lot of guys, right?
Sure.
Of course, it was Game 82. And I apologize to anyone watching. My bird likes to always interject.
That's
hello.
Is he a Flyers fan?
He does fly.
Okay.
And then I think it was 4-2, and the 4 goals, nobody over the age of 23 had a point. Matt Michkov had 3 points. Alex Bump had his goal. Porter Martone had a goal and an assist. Hunter McDonald had, he was the old man at 23 getting on the scoreboard. The score sheet, I should say, it's youth movement is nice. And it, like I said, it creates like a nice vibe in the room. It's everyone's excited. Everyone's in they're just happy to be here a little bit, kind of. Alex Bump kind of said that after the game. They're happy to be here, but they also obviously want to play and do well. But yeah, it creates
winning helps a lot.
Winning helps a lot. Yes.
Jackie, I want to talk real quick about the Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. You've seen both teams play this year. What are your initial thoughts on this series?
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I know Tampa had a lot of injuries earlier in the year. I don't think you could ever count out John Cooper. I'm a fan of John Cooper and his work. I think he's really, he's brilliant coach. Obviously went to Hofstra, New York, but I didn't go to Hofstra, but I'm from New York. But, I think he's just such a tactician. I think he's just so impressive, and I don't think you can ever discount a John Cooper team. I mean, look what he did this year who's out now? Kucherov or Hedman, I think, is out for...
Hedman's out on a personal leave.
Yeah, so I don't think you ever count out a John Cooper team. Having said that, Montreal obviously has a Cole Caulfield, has a Nick Suzuki. Dobish has been really good in that, and then Marty St. Louis knows about playing in these big games. He's single-handedly helped, the New York Rangers one year go deep into the playoffs. He obviously has won a cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning, actually.
Exactly.
So I don't know if I could give a prediction, because I think it's really going to go far. I think this might be a very evenly, is it fair to say this is an evenly matched series?
I think it's a yin and a yang. The Lightning are more of the team that's got to grind it out, forecheck, get below the net. Montreal is speed and chaos. They are fast. I think that speed will give Tampa trouble because Tampa's older on the blue line.
Yeah.
They're not the most mobile team. I think it's whichever team dictates the pace is going to win this series. I think it's Tampa in 7. I think Montreal might be just a year early.
That's fair. I mean, they have Demidov too. They have, Slavkovsky. I mean, they have youth also, like we talk about the Flyers. You can't discount Cole Caulfield scoring 50. Or 51. What was his final
51.
number? 51. Like, you cannot discount that. I think it's a good test for Nick Suzuki as the captain. He's still a young captain in a lot of ways. But he's also one of the best two-way guys at center. So you never know.
Jackie, one of the stats I was able to find when Suzuki got 100 points, he's the first Canadian to have 100 points since Mats Naslund. That stunned me. It's not as if the Canadians have been void of talent. They've had talented players. Saku Koivu back in the early 2000s was a really good player. I just was stunned that it's been that long since they had a 100-point score.
And it's been a while since they had a 50-goal score, too, with Caulfield, right?
Stephane Richer.
Yeah, so Jesus. Makes me feel old.
We're going to the Wayback Machine.
That's like when I was in high school with Stephane Richer. Like, it's kind of surprising. I mean, we kind of hit the NHL where they don't have guys, it's not the days of when, Solani scored, 70-something as a rookie.
76?
Yeah, 76, I think it was. And then you have, your Brett Hulls and your John LeClaire, I think, had a high number one year. Keith Tkachuk scored 50 goals because his name sounds like a goal being scored. Do you remember that commercial?
I think they made that commercial when he played for the Coyotes.
They did.
Yes.
No, but it's I think the NHL's not built that way anymore, but maybe it's turned, since isn't Gretzky out there, scoring over 200 something, Mario scoring over 200 points, Yager, it's changed a lot in terms of what works, but the Flyers are a stingy defensive team. Talkett's philosophy is shoot wherever you want. I don't really care. Just don't shoot from the middle of the ice kind of thing. They're one of the best in goals against for the Flyers. So the game's changed, but maybe it's turning back a little bit because who doesn't love goals? Goalies don't, but.
Well, in talking about goaltenders, you see a lot more teams do a split share. You see teams right now. I don't know if Carolina is going to start Busey, if they're going to start Frederick Anderson. You have the Penguins with Skinner and Sheelos. I got to ask you a couple questions because I know we're short on time here, but what goaltender in the East do you think could steal a series?
Well, I might be a little biased here because I've watched his entire season, and I was one of the few people who was actually this is a great pickup by the Flyers in the offseason, but I do think Dan Vladar is someone who could potentially do that. When he's on his game, I don't think I've seen a goalie that is as active with his stick than I've seen in Dan Vladar. And I mean that in terms of poke checking guys and doing it aggressively where you're what is he doing? And then it works and it's oh, okay, that's cool.
He just has that sixth sense about it.
Yeah, he did it a bunch in Detroit. I know he gave up a couple goals there, but there's a couple times he did it where you're just that's fantastic. Usually goalies just wait for it to kind of come and he's just so aggressive. I do think when he's on his game, he could be someone that can shut this team down. The Flyers have to be obviously on their game too. It's very much has to go in tandem. I'm trying to think of the goalies. I mean, Vince Vasilevsky has to be someone you put on that list, right? There's no doubt about it. Minus, Olmark maybe if he's on his game, could be someone that can do that if he's the one in net for Ottawa.
I want to talk real quick about Ottawa.
Jeremy Swayman is someone, obviously.
I want to talk real quick about Ottawa. A lot of people have them as that dangerous lower seed that could do a lot of damage.
I agree.
I don't think that's who Carolina wanted to play. I think they would have rather played Boston. Meanwhile, I think Buffalo would have rather played Ottawa. But that being said, in your opinion, who's that dangerous lower seed that you think is really going to give some teams a sleepless night?
Well, I do think it's Ottawa. I do. I mean, you can go 50-50 with them in Boston because they are the two wild cards. And let's be realistic, Boston has David Pastrnak. They do have Jeremy Swayman in net. They have Charlie McAvoy. Fraser Minton's on that team now. You have guys that are game changers, right?
Yeah.
David Pastrnak is a game changer, 100%. So could they steal the game from
Buffalo?
Well, thank you, Buffalo.
Hey, it's been a long couple days for you, Jackie.
Oh, I feel like I don't leave my computer right now. I think that's a team that could really take them to the end. Ottawa, yes. I think I've always been a big fan of Travis Green and how he coaches. You have your Brady. They're a young team too, right? Your Tim Stützles and your Jake Sandersons, and obviously Brady Tkachuk, and they could be hard. I mean, Carolina, you really want to hope one day they kind of get it all together and push it and make that final. And I mean, Rob Brendamore's done the work there, right? Like,
yeah.
But they always seem to hit a wall at some point for some reason.
It's always the conference finals.
It's unbelievable. You like to think that maybe this is the year. Granted, they would have to, if the Flyers beat the Penguins, they would play them in the second round. There are hard question marks, obviously, with Carolina and the goaltending. Although, I thought Brendan Bussey's looked good, but like, obviously, then you have your Freddie Andersons, and I think Kochekov still. I like to think that maybe they'll get it together and not fall apart for once. But I think the East is more wide open than people realize.
Is the West pretty much Colorado and whoever wins the Dallas-Minnesota series?
Well, they have to play each other in the second round, though. That's the only
right.
thing. I think Vegas is in the conversation, too. I do, especially with Torts behind the bench. I do think Vegas, look, Vegas is stacked with that roster. Jack Eichel always comes up big in the big games. Mitch Marner, he's had his struggles in the playoffs in Toronto, but he's not in Toronto anymore. He's in Vegas, and they have guys who know how to win on that team too. They've won a cup within the last couple of years. I think maybe their goaltending is a little, Carter Hart has not looked as good. I think the West is a little bit more, it'll be Colorado or Dallas or Minnesota, whoever ends up out of that series.
Out of that trio, yeah.
Yeah, I do think it'll be one of those three teams. My preseason pick was actually Dallas over Carolina in the final.
Boy, I wish I had that betting ticket right now. I'm going to be that'd be a great exacta to hit at the sports book.
That was who I had at the very, very beginning of the season. I have personally hope Minnesota makes it just because of my friend Jessie Pierce, and I know that she's watching down on that team. The NHL.com reporter who passed away with her 3 children. So little bit of, I think they have a little push maybe. She's been covering Minnesota.
Little halo overlooking them.
Yeah, she was covering Minnesota. She covered Minnesota hockey for decades. I don't know. I think the East is a little bit more open than we thought, and I think any team can come out of the East at this point. I don't think Buffalo's like this juggernaut that people, that Carolina's not a juggernaut in a lot of ways, because of the demons. And look at Toronto. We know the demons exist.
Yeah. 1967.
Bill Barocco, they found him and they won, and they haven't won since. So that's to quote a little tragically hip for you. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I had Carolina, Dallas. I'm going to stick with that for now.
Well, Jackie, I know you're busy. You have to plan on getting to Pittsburgh by Saturday. First of all, thank you for joining us. For everyone, absolutely, you can see Jackie's writings at the Philadelphia Inquirer website, www.inquirer.com. Jackie, great catching up to you. Hope to see you in Pittsburgh here in a little bit.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
You got it.
Well, we can't thank Jackie enough for joining us. Some great insight on the Penguins Flyers series and the NHL in general. I've known Jackie for a while. It was great to have her on the show. Now it's time for Justin and Jason's NHL playoff picks. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. First of all, Justin, Sens and the Canes. Carolina won the series 2-1. This is a pretty interesting series. Ottawa had to earn their way into the playoffs. They had 99 points. It's the highest of any 8th seed ever in NHL history. They are a feisty bunch. They forecheck the hell out of the game. Carolina, a lot of talent. We know they're bugaboos in the Eastern Conference Finals. Justin, what are your initial thoughts on the series?
Honestly, I think this could be one of the more entertaining series in the first round. We know Carolina is going to play with a lot of pace. They're going to fire a lot of shots at the netminders. They have a lot of that youth. The Lightning have just saw them recently. That that top line of Giroux, Stützle, and Batherson is a pretty good first line. So I think they're going to be able to hold their own. They've been really solid defensively over the last during their run up to the playoffs. The fact that Thomas Chabot is back after breaking his arm, I think the guy was out for like 2 weeks or something. Yeah, surgery on his arm. He's back in there. It does make you wonder how healthy he actually is. Is he playing at 70%? Is that going to be a factor if he starts taking some hits, over a sustained series? Is he going to be able to hold up to it? A lot of question marks in this. Carolina has a lot to prove this year. I think they are the favorite in the East, but again, they still have to make it to the Eastern Conference Final to be able to exorcise those demons. It should be a fun series. I think Carolina did enough to improve their depth that they're going to be able to pull this one out. I feel like Carolina in 5 or 6 games. I think Ottawa gives them a shot here and there, but I think Carolina's just too deep this year. Their defense is a little bit better. I think Nick Ehlers is going to be a big factor in it. If they can get goals from him, they're going to be all right.
You had mentioned the Nikolai Ehlers acquisition. They brought him in as a free agent, had a career high 72 points. He is a big addition in terms of depth scoring in Carolina. I think this series is going to come down to goaltending. There's questions in net. Is it going to be Anderson? Is it going to be Busey? For Ottawa, Linus Ullmark has been inconsistent all year, even though he has a little bit more of a track record. I think it's going to be Busey in net for Carolina, to be honest. I'd be shocked if they go to Frederik Andersen. I think Carolina is too deep. I think they're just too balanced. I go Carolina in 5. Let's go to the boys of the Niagara, Buffalo. We got a lot of hate when we said we didn't think that they were a Stanley Cup
You said
winning
they
team.
weren't a Stanley, sir. You said they weren't a Stanley Cup team. I am not involved in that statement whatsoever.
Well, just pleading all innocence right there.
That's
But
right.
they play Boston, and one of the points I made to Jackie in our interview was I think Buffalo would have rather have played Ottawa, and I think Carolina would have rather have played Boston. I think this is a tough matchup. You look at the season series; it was won by Boston 3-1. Boston has the top end talent. Pasternak, Morgan Geekie had a great season. Jeremy Swayman in net. I think Boston has the kind of guys who can steal the series. Buffalo is more balanced. I'm going to give them that. I just think that in terms of star power, in terms of guys who could swing a series, Boston is loaded with them. I think it's Boston in 6.
Yeah, I think it's a great test for Buffalo. I mean, they're super excited to be in the playoffs. They broke the curse, whatever curse it may have been. If there was a curse, I don't know. But they're back in for after a long time. I don't think they're one of these teams that, hey, we made it. That's great. Who cares what happens? They want to win the Stanley Cup. And I think they do have the talent to do it, honestly. I think they're a lot deeper than teams give them credit for. They play with pace. They're a really good team, but Boston is a great test for them. After kind of a slow start, Boston's just been a good team all year long. They haven't been a sexy team. They haven't been an exciting team, but they've been really good. Morgan Geekie was kind of slumping a little bit there for an end, but he finished his season really well. He started to put the puck back in the net, so that's a good sign for them. Their big, the big question mark for them is, are they going to be able to get that secondary scoring? Is that Pavel Zacha line going to be able to put the puck in the net and take some of the pressure off of the top line with Pasternak? And then you got Swayman in net, and he's probably one of the top goalies in the league. He can steal a game or two here. If Buffalo does get their forecheck rolling and it starts piling up the shots, he's good enough to, like I said, steal a game. So it's going to be a good test. I think it's honestly, I got Buffalo in 6 in this one. I think they're good enough that they're going to pull this out. They may stumble game 1 or game 2, maybe a little too much excitement, opening the building. One of these things where they start at home and the energy is going to be electric up in that building, which it hasn't been for 10 to 15 years. So
2011.
Yeah. So, everyone's going to be pumped up. I think they may put a little too much pressure on themselves in game 1. I can see Boston coming in and stealing that one. But overall, I think Buffalo finds their game, and I think they advance after a pretty tough, rugged series.
One point I wanted to make, David Pasternak had a great season, 100
Yep.
points. I thought when Krejci retired, you would see his game suffer some. He's proved me wrong. He's been even better with him being out. With Krejci retiring, I really give Pasternak a lot of credit. He's been a top flight NHL player, and I should say this: he came into the season without a true number two, and Morgan Geekie is the person who became that.
Yeah, having Geeky, being able to score, it took a lot of pressure off of Pasternak. He kind of turned into more of a playmaker than he's been in the past. He's kind of the last guy standing there from the glory years for the Bruins. Marchand's in Florida, Krejci retired, Patrice Bergeron retired, Zdeno's gone. So, Pasternak's
He's
still
the
there.
last man left.
Yeah, he's the last man there, and he's thriving. He's not just going out on the ice and going through the motions. I mean, the guy had a legitimately great year. Didn't get a lot of press for it. I think I referred to him as the second best winger in the league behind Kucherov now, and I still believe that. So he's one of these guys who can take over a series and just drag the Bruins through it. But again, I just think Buffalo's a little bit too good this year, and they're going to find a way to pull it off.
Let's talk about the Penguins and the Flyers. We know the Penguins situation. It's Crosby, it's Malkin, it's Letang. It may be their final run. They are playing a team that's coming into the playoffs red hot in the Philadelphia Flyers. Again, 9 points out of a playoff spot around March the 10th. They finish in third place. They vaulted a lot of teams to get there. The Flyers are young. They're dynamic. They're going to be quick. For me, I think the question is who plays in net for the Penguins? I think it's going to be Stuart Skinner to start, but are they going to be effective? I know the last 3 games, the Penguins sat a lot of people, but defensively, they were bad. They gave up, I want to say, close to 20 goals in those last 3 games. I think this is a little bit of a danger sign for the Penguins. I think the Flyers' youth and speed catches up to them. I think Flyers in 6.
Yeah, I think goaltending is going to be your big question mark, even for the Flyers. I mean, they're probably going to go with Dan Vladar, and he's not exactly playoff tested as well. So this could be one of those where maybe there's some 5-4 games in this. And the question is going to be can Pittsburgh keep the run and gun going with the younger team? I think Porter Matrone's come in and had a great rookie debut. He could be a key factor for this Flyers team. That's just maybe they're too young to know they're not supposed to win this series. And I think there's a lot of parallels between this series and the Lightning series, where you have the old Lions trying for one last ride here with, Crosby and Malkin. Can they, will their way, use their experience, and find a way to sneak one out here? If they could win a game or two in Philly, then it's pretty much all over. The Penguins did a good job of surrounding Crosby with some talent. I mean, that Igor Chinnikov move may go down as one of the best moves of the season. Because he's coming in, he's playing top line minutes for him now.
He's a top 6 forward, scored 17 goals for them in about 40 games.
Yeah, and then they got Ben Kindle down there on that third line, so it's going to be a fun series. I think it's going to get ugly at times. I think if there's any two teams that might have a headline social media darling brawl, it could be these two. I mean, they just don't like each other. Could be a fun series to watch. I want to pick the Flyers in this, to tell you the truth. I feel like Flyers in 7, maybe. Maybe this is the upset of the first round.
Well, we both had that. I do think something that people don't talk about is Rick Tocchet was an assistant coach for the Penguins 2 Stanley Cups when they won back-to-back in 16 and 17. He knows Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. He knows them well enough. He knows how to defend them and have a strategy against them. I think that is going to be big in this series. Justin, we're going to end with the Lightning and the Habs. So let's go to the Western Conference. The Dallas Stars, the Minnesota Wild. I always feel like the Minnesota Wild are the version of Cousin Oliver in the Brady Bunch. They're good enough to be on some episodes, but they're never good enough to get past the first round. They face Dallas once again. Let's face it, the Central Division is a juggernaut. Minnesota is a really good team. They just also happen to be in a division with the Colorado Avalanche, who won the President's Trophy, and the Dallas Stars, who I believe finished with the second highest point total in the league. The other thing I want to say is Dallas comes into this series with some injuries. Miro Heiskanen is questionable. You got Roman Heinz, who's going to be miss at least the first 2 games, the high-scoring center. I think those are some major hurdles that Dallas is going to have to overcome. I'm saying that, hey, Minnesota's no longer going to be Cousin Oliver. They're going to get a regular spot on the Brady Bunch. They're moving on to the second round in 7.
Yeah, I think this is your marquee matchup for the first round right here. It's kind of been the matchup we've known is going to take place for the longest time as well, just with the way that the standings were kind of playing out. So these two teams have known they're going to play each other for a while. They've scouted each other. Minnesota's big thing was the first round losses that they've had the last few years, not being able to get to the second round. And Billy Guerin wanted to build a team that was better at 5-on-5, that was deeper. And I think he actually did a pretty good job of doing it. Of course, the splashiest move was going out and getting Quinn Hughes, which really changed their offense, really sparked their offense when they went on their long run, starting in the mid-December, and that kind of carried them into the playoffs. So, but, he also added Vlad Tarasenko in the offseason, guy who some thought maybe a little bit washed up, but he had a strong season, especially at 5-on-5. Their rookie Daniel Yurov has had a strong season. He's a great two-way forward. Added that depth at the deadline with Michael McCarron and the Foligno brother. The Folignos are reunited in Minnesota and can carry that team into the playoffs, hopefully. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a tough series. It's going to be an ugly series at times. There's a lot of scoring talent. For Dallas, you got Jason Robertson, who probably wants to show Billy Guerin that he deserved to be on the Olympic team. There could be a little revenge factor there for them. But I think it's going to come down to goaltending as well. Can Jake Ottinger pull it off? He's going to face a lot of shots. He's going to face, especially if Minnesota gets on the power play. They have a really great power play unit with Kaprizov, Hughes, Matt Boldy out there, Tarasenko. I mean, there's just a lot of options for him. So it's going to be a fun series. It's going to get ugly at times. It's going to be one in the trenches despite all that talent. So I got Minnesota, with the edge. I think Minnesota goes in 6.
We both have a couple upsets. So
Yeah.
we both have the Flyers. We both have the Minnesota Wild. Now let's move to the President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche. They just steamrolled the entire season. They faced the LA Kings. Now, the Kings, for an 8 seed, have some high end talent. They did get Artemi Panarin right before the deadline. They did play better hockey in order to make the playoffs. A lot of people didn't think they were going to be in there. They found a way to get that 8 seed, but Justin, you're going against Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. I think it's too much. I think Avalanche. I want to say a sweep, but I'm going to say Avalanche in 5. I'll give the Kings 1.
There you go. Good old gentleman sweep there. Yeah, congratulations, Kings. You overtimed your way. You Bettman point your way into the playoffs. And your reward is the Colorado Avalanche. Probably the deepest team. I would think if you won the President's Trophy, if you're ranking your teams, they're probably at the top of the leaderboard right there. Like you said, the depth. That Brock Nelson move last year, and then even some of the moves they made this year, bringing in some nice depth players. Makar can take over a series. McKinnon can take over a series. Martin Nakis can take over a series. He had a really strong year. I think not a lot of people are talking about. So there's just too much talent on Colorado right now. If they were to go out in the first round, it would be comparable to the Lightning losing in 2018-19. It's not impossible. Could happen, but I highly, highly doubt it. So I'm with you on this one. Avalanche in 5.
Let's head to the Utah Mammoth, the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas finished on a heater, 7-0-1 in their last 8. Hey, they did the NHL version of fire their coach and get hot. John Tortorella hasn't seen a regulation loss since he's been the coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas has high-end talent. They have depth. They play an upstart Utah team, a team that might be a year early, but they have a lot of young talent. It's going to be their first time through the rigors. I think even though I like the advantage of Utah and that with Carl Velmeka, I think that's big. If Utah is going to win this series, I think it's because Vegas goaltending between Aiden Hill and Carter Hart, they can't figure out who to start, and they both have bad series, which I could see happening. I think Utah is the type of team that could do it. I just don't think this is the year. I'm going to say Golden Knights in 6.
this is the one I actually don't even have a team circled on this one. I'm completely kind of flummoxed by this one a little bit. I want to go with the knife.
We're going to
Yeah.
get an off the cuff Justin Godfrey pick. I'm at the
Yeah.
sports book. Hey, we're putting it on this team.
Exactly. Yeah. Last minute. Throw a dart at the two teams and figure out who wins. You kind of wonder if this is one of those things where Vegas gets exposed for being maybe a little bit older team, especially on their defense. Utah's a good team. They got that nice youth foundation there. They could pull off the upset. I wouldn't be super surprised to see that. Torts is going to have Vegas playing a dirtier style of hockey than they're used to. A lot more blocking shots, a lot more taking away passing lanes, as opposed to trying for an up-tempo offensive team, despite the amount of talent on their team. In the same token, I also think Vegas is one of these teams where you just get to the playoffs and then figure it out from there. They have the potential to find that second gear to kick it up and then just, make me look like a fool by taking out Utah in like 5 games or something like that. Utah is kind of a wild card in this. You don't know how they're going to play. It's been a while since, it's technically their first time in the playoffs, but, based on their Arizona lineage, it's been a while since any of these players have been in the postseason, but they still have like Sergachev, who has 2 cups under his belt. So they have some leadership that's done it before. Vegas in 6.
Justin, the final series we're going to talk about are the Anaheim Ducks. They finished in 3rd in the Pacific. They're going to be facing the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers have been to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. We all know about Connor McDavid. It looks like Leon Draisaitl is at least questionable to return. If there's one series that's going to have a lot of offense, it's this one. They've played high-scoring games throughout their season series. Edmonton won the series 2-1. I still have questions if Edmonton can stop a puck. I really do. I don't believe in Connor Ingram. Tristan Jarry has been Swiss cheese ever since he was traded from Pittsburgh to Edmonton. I'm going to go with another upset here. I'm going to say Ducks in 7.
My initial thought when I saw this matchup, if Edmonton loses this series, burn it to the ground. Trade McDavid, trade Draisaitl. You're never going to win. Looking a little bit deeper into it, does Anaheim have a chance? Yes. I think they're kind of in the same boat Philly is. A lot of young talent that maybe isn't aware of the expectations, against them. I think Edmonton's depth is going to pull through a little bit, which is a weird thing to say about Edmonton. I think they're the deeper team, and I will send to you this Philip Hollander green rookie ice card. If you can name one player, just one player without looking up, on the Anaheim Ducks 4th line right now, according to Daily Faceoff.
Alex Killorn?
Nope, he's on their 2nd line.
Is he on their 2nd line?
He's on there, according to Daily Faceoff. It's him, Granlund, and Beckett Sinecki on their 2nd line. One player.
Well, I know Chris Kreider's has a bigger role.
Top line, baby. Leo Carlson and Troy Terry.
Yeah, who do you got?
So according to Daily Faceoff, as of right now.
And well, let me say, are they going to put Mason McTavish on that 4th line?
He is on the 3rd line with Ryan Proling and Cutter Gauthier.
Well, I know McTavish has been in the doghouse. That's why I mentioned him.
So, yeah, and I don't see anybody really injured. So Jeffrey Veal, Tim Wash, and Ian Moore are your 4th line for the Anaheim Ducks, according to Daily Faceoff. So I think that does become a factor in this series. Edmonton isn't the deepest team, but they are deeper than Anaheim. If they split up McDavid and Draisaitl, and I do think Draisaitl's going to be ready for game 1. I just don't think Anaheim has the depth to match up in a 7-game series against Edmonton. Again, you mentioned it, goaltending for both teams is going to be a big key factor. Connor Ingram's been good. He hasn't been great. Is that going to be enough for them? Is he going to pull off a Stuart Skinner, that we saw the last couple of years, where he just gives them adequate enough goaltending to make it through those early rounds? It's a big question. I may joke about the depth in Anaheim, but their young talent is really good. I mean, Beckett Sinecki came out of nowhere this year, and the fact that you have a Cutter Gauthier playing on the 3rd line is a good sign, for them. So it's going to be an interesting play. I think Leo Carlson's one of the most underrated young players in the game today. I think the guy just does everything really well. And I've talked with some Anaheim folks, and he's just not appreciated enough. I think Anaheim's your, hey, we're happy to be here kind of team. We're not supposed to be here. We're ahead of schedule. It's great that we made the playoffs this year. Look for us to be a force in the future, but we'll give you a token win. I got Edmonton in 5. So
Final series we need to talk about are the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. We did the series preview with Jared Book. The one thing we do know now is the schedule. The Lightning start on Sunday. They play Tuesday in Tampa. They have a couple days off before they head to Montreal for Friday, Sunday. And then they have another 2-day off period before they finish out this series. Justin, I actually think the schedule helps Tampa a little bit. Anytime you're the older team, having a couple extra days off is always a benefit. I told Jackie, I think this is a tough series. I think it just depends on which team can enforce their system. Is Tampa going to be able to forecheck? Is Montreal's speed and chaos going to take over? That's going to be who wins the series. I have Tampa in 7.
yeah, I think this probably makes us series for series. Not a lot of disagreement between the two of us, which is always great for ratings, right?
Yes.
Anyways, yeah, I feel like it's Lightning in 6 or 7. I think that's what I said in our preview with Jared the other day. But you're right. It's which team is going to be able to dictate the pace of play. The 2 extra days off do help the Lightning, and I think the fact that it doesn't start till Sunday helps the Lightning more than it helps the Montreal, who do technically have an extra day off. But I think once you get over 3 days off, it's kind of meaningless. Like going from 3 days to 4 days isn't that big of an advantage, whereas going from 2 days off to 3 days off, I think it's a little bit more of an advantage for the Lightning. They're going to practice today over in Brandon, I believe. So we'll get an idea of what the lines are going to look like, who's healthy, who's going to be in. Yeah, it should be a fun series. I think goaltending is going to be a big deal. I think Vasilevsky has a potential to steal a game or two, even if Montreal gets their kind of chaos going with the first line. One of the interesting things, been doing the research here, as far as even strength scoring, I think it's going to be big for the Lightning to keep this at 5-on-5. I know there's been some penalty issues from time to time especially in the last 2 games. But from my research, the line of Slafkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki, they played 33 minutes together against the Lightning. They scored 3 goals at 5-on-5. In the 108 minutes that they haven't been on the ice, I should say the 108 minutes, one of those 3 players hasn't been on the ice. Montreal hasn't scored an even strength goal. They've been outscored 5-0 by the Lightning. So that line has 3. Caulfield and Suzuki together have 1, and then Slafkovsky has 2 when he was on a separate line. That's an advantage for the Lightning. They can keep it on 5-on-5. You let the Caulfield Suzuki line do what they do, and you try and hold, you try and bend and don't break when they're on the ice, and then you dominate when the other 3 lines are out there. If the Lightning can pull that off, I think that's going to be a big factor, especially as this series goes on, because now you force Montreal to have to think about breaking up that top line if they're not getting any scoring out of those secondary units. So I think the Lightning's depth helps them out in this one, especially if everybody's healthy. We know Holmberg's not going to play, but if Nick Paul jumps on that line and gives in that solid third line, I got the Lightning in 7 in this one.
Well, Justin, we've given our playoff predictions. It's time for everyone to hit the betting window and probably do the opposite because we agree on way too much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our next podcast will be on Monday. We are going to recap Game 1 of the Montreal Canadiens Tampa Bay Lightning series. We will preview Game 2. We'll take a look around the league and see what games have surprised us and which ones ended up as we expected. For Justin Godfrey, who you can read every day at www.rawcharge.com, I'm Jason Linkous. Thanks for joining us here on Backchecking the Bolts. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and go Bolts.
Go Bolts.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.